Joel, thanks for joining me. I want to dive right into this story because it is incredibly tragic and disturbing. A university student has been killed in Nigeria, allegedly murdered by a Muslim mob. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're still piecing the pieces together from different reports, but we have videos, we have photos, which I've seen. Unfortunately, I wish I hadn't seen them. But it seems what happened is this young woman, was the head of the Women's Christian Fellowship in her university in a city in the north of Nigeria called Sokoto. And there was some kind of argument in a WhatsApp group about religion. Some people say she praised Jesus for something. Other people say she asked some other people to stop talking about religion so much. And the next day, some young Muslim students went to her hostel and grabbed her and beat her to death and then burned her body. And we have the video of the body being burned, and you can see the faces of the people who did it, and you can hear them shouting, Allahu Akbar. And they are apparently not afraid at all of being punished for this.
I mean, it is a horrific story. Reports of her being stoned and then, as you mentioned, burned. I also read that she was trying to hide out in the university's security office, and that they found her there. This is unimaginable in 2022 that an event like this would be happening in the world. And it's interesting, here in America, thinking about the freedoms that Americans enjoy, the idea that insulting somebody, even if she did, and I'm not saying she did, but insulting somebody or criticizing somebody's religion would lead to this is such a foreign concept. How common are events like this in Nigeria?
Becoming more common, unfortunately. So your listeners might know that over half of Nigeria, or at least half of Nigeria, is Christian, but that's mostly in the southern part of the country. In the northern part of the country, it's majority Muslim, and there's been a 20-year-long campaign to install Sharia law as the law of these 12 northern states of Nigeria. And so it is against the law to blaspheme Islam in these states. And right now there's a 13-year-old boy in prison, a Muslim boy actually, but he's accused of blaspheming Allah in an argument with a friend. There's a singer who's in prison in another state in the north, who've been officially convicted on the charge of blasphemy, right? So the state has, in a way, given its seal of approval to anyone who says, blasphemy is something that deserves to be punished. So we shouldn't be surprised when we see things like this. There was a case a few years back of a man who was beheaded by a mob, and then his head was carried around the city because his illiterate wife was accused of desecrating pages of the Quran. Well, she was illiterate. She didn't even know what she was doing. But as you said, to us, the idea that hurting a book or insulting the wrong person could lead to such violence is inconceivable. But that is the ideology that has taken root in northern Nigeria, while the rest of the world has looked on.
This particular woman, Deborah, looking at her story, when you read, and of course, a lot of this is speculation, we're still trying to put details together, but when you read that she was hiding out in a security office, the question that comes to mind is why was nobody there to protect her? Why were no police there? I mean, are there any protections whatsoever for people who find themselves in a situation like this? Again, there was a gap in time between the alleged offense, whatever she posted or said, and this attack. So I'm just curious about, how do the police react to these things? Why was nobody there to help her?
Yeah. And again, we don't know exactly what the police did or didn't do in this situation. But just as an example, Nigeria's former vice president this morning tweeted out that he saw the video of the attack and he was very upset about it and he condemns it. And a few hours later, he had to delete the tweet because there were so many threats coming his way. Right? So it's this devilish situation where if someone is accused of blasphemy, if you try to defend that person, you are liable of getting accused of blasphemy too. So we've seen this play out in Pakistan, we've seen this play out in Egypt. Everywhere where blasphemy is against the law, it becomes very risky to speak up for the person who's been accused, even if they've been falsely accused. So it would not surprise me if the policemen themselves did not feel safe defending an accused blasphemer.
Wow. And again, that is completely foreign to the rest of us, right? When you talk about rights and structures and responsibility and, looking at this story, you and I were talking before we started the interview about the fact that a number of outlets are covering this where you don't always see these sorts of persecution stories. And I think there are a number of elements to this story, her death, but that video that is circulating, clearly somebody recorded this event. And you described a little bit, and I know it's difficult to describe, but what does the video show in its entirety?
So there's one video clip where Deborah's body is already on the ground, lifeless, and about 5 different men are hitting it with sticks and chains. And then there's a second video where there's a fire, and you can see that there's a body burning in the fire, and people are shouting Allahu Akbar, which is, it literally means God is great. And it has a religious sense for most Muslims, but for extremists, it's a victory cry or a battle cry. It can serve that purpose.
You know, obviously we could be praying and we need to be praying for Deborah's family and her loved ones and for Nigeria as a whole. I mean, this is something you deal with on a daily basis. You are the head of international communications for Christian Solidarity International. You know, as a believer and as somebody who's looking at these events and seeing videos like that, how do you process that? You know, I'm interested to know, how do you deal with knowing that, not only knowing these events are happening, but also seeing them and working diligently to try to stop them?
It's difficult. You know, I was texting with one of my team members this morning, who's a Nigerian man himself. He's an expert on Nigeria. And he said, Joel, I feel traumatized. I feel like, you know, someone's wrenching my heart out, because it is, we deal with stories like this every day, but in this case, you can see it happening and it's just so visceral and so raw. But you know, what happened to Deborah is not unique. You know, just yesterday, actually, or 2 days ago, I believe, the Islamic State in Nigeria released a video showing 20 Christian hostages being executed in one go. And then a week before yesterday, 29 Christians were murdered in Fulani militia attacks on villages in Plateau State, including some children. So this is really happening every day in Nigeria. Every day, Christians are being murdered. And I think, as an American, I'm American by citizenship, the first thing people think of when they think of Nigeria is usually internet fraud, right? That's the first thing that comes to my mind, the first thing that comes to many people's minds. Nigeria is one of the biggest Christian countries in the world. You know, the gospel is on fire in Nigeria. The gospel is spreading, churches are growing. This is the future of Christianity. Churches are dying in Europe. Churches are slowly shrinking in the United States too. But in Nigeria, that's where the kingdom is spreading. And why is it that we aren't paying attention to this? And why is it that we haven't noticed that precisely where the church is having the biggest growth, the devil is attacking the most ferociously? And why is it not a scandal when our Secretary of State flies to Nigeria's capital and then the next day removes Nigeria from the United States' list of countries that persecute people for their religion? I mean, why? Obviously, that's scandalous. But why are we not talking about it? Why did President Biden, pay no political price for this?
Why do you think that is? You know, I'd love to talk about what, because look, I mean, they rank number 7 on Open Doors USA's list. You're monitoring them. Everybody seems to be looking at Nigeria, and this particular event, this horrific stoning and burning of a human being's body, it would seem is not just anecdotal. You just listed off a number of other events. This is what is happening there. Why do you think this nation was removed?
So, I'll step a little bit back in history, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
When the British came to Nigeria and they colonized Nigeria, they found a lot of small ethnic groups in the south, and then they found in the north a caliphate. Right, it was called the Sokoto Caliphate. It was actually based in the city where this lynching happened yesterday. And the British said, well, a caliphate, we understand what that is. We understand how it works. So they turned large portions of Nigeria that were actually mostly Christian, even though they were a variety of different ethnic groups, over to the caliphate to rule. Right, so British colonialism kind of made use of the Muslim rulers of the north to control Nigeria. And that pattern has continued in Nigerian history even after the British left. The military rulers of Nigeria and the military elite of Nigeria tend to be Muslims from the north. They are the ones who managed to hold the country together, to maintain a tight grip of control on Nigeria. And Nigeria is a very strategic country, right? So if the United States wants a low-cost way to make sure that its interests in Nigeria are protected, the easiest way to do that is to make an alliance with a government headed by Muslims from the north. And that seems to be the calculation that the United States is making. It's the same calculation that the British made 100 years ago, that if you want things in Nigeria to be calm, if you want things to go your way, you make an alliance with the strongest force. And that's the Muslim elites of northern Nigeria. And I fear that is why we removed Nigeria from the list, because it's a signal from the United States to Nigeria: we're on your side, we want to help you, we're going to look the other way when things like this happen.
Well, and I think what you're watching happen right now is people are waking up. Events like this are waking people up to this, and I so appreciate the work that you are doing. Before we go here, how can people support you and your organization?
You can pray for us. You can pray for strength for us. You can pray for the church in Nigeria, please. If you're in the United States or really anywhere, you can donate to our efforts at www.csi-usa.org. We are on the ground in Nigeria. We're providing medical help to survivors of terrorist attacks. We're providing aid to refugees, Christian refugees who have had to flee their homes. We're providing legal aid to Christians who are being persecuted by the government for speaking out. Journalists like Luca Biniat, who is one of my heroes, who has been to jail 3 times for reporting on what's happening to Christians in his state. So if you would like to engage with us, we have a special website for Nigeria. It's called nigeriareport.org. It's nigeria-report.org. You can sign up to our newsletter if you want to stay informed about what's happening in Nigeria on a weekly basis, so that you can better pray for our brothers and sisters there. That's what I would say. And thank you so much to anyone who's led to support us in that way.
Well, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you coming on. It's a heartbreaking, very difficult story, but we appreciate you giving us the information and keeping us up to date on what's happening in Nigeria.
Thanks so much, Billy.